Hi everyone, it's Victoria at Bols Global and I hope you're doing really well. So today we're going to talk about some top tips in how to get your product successfully registered in Saudi Arabia. This tends to be an area that a lot of companies struggle with and are a bit apprehensive. How do we make sure that we can get our products compliant and registered and successfully therefore exported into Saudi Arabia? And it is unfortunately a key part of the internationalisation journey. Without the products being approved for importation, then clearly, despite the amount of business opportunities you may find in that market, you're not going to be able to obviously turn those on until the compliance is complete and the products are registered. So, from our experience, years of it, and how to go about doing this. Now, as a side note, so that everyone's aware, it is the Saudi Food and Drug Authority, the SFDA, who regulates and authorises products for importation across a number of categories, and this includes food and beverages. Usually the process is actually quite straightforward in terms of what's needed to be applied for. It is an online application made by a Saudi registered entity. And usually when it comes to food and drink items, it is a case of providing artwork files that are high resolution and that are able to be seen, that contain the right information, which we'll go through, plus a front of pack 3D image of the product. No need usually for physical samples to be provided when it comes to food and beverages, and it is quite a straightforward, simple process. However, there are a number of key things to consider and things that normally perhaps in your country of origin you wouldn't be putting certain information on there that will be required when it comes to Saudi Arabia and being able to import your products into that territory. So some of the key areas, obviously around language, products as they are for consumers, and Arabic is the official language. Arabic must be present on the food labels themselves. They can have other languages, such as English or country of origin language, but Arabic is a mandatory must. Other areas when it comes to pre-packed foods, and one which catches a lot of people out as well, can be that the country of origin of the product must also be stated on the product in English and Arabic, for example, if it was a multilingual pack with English and Arabic. Obviously, then the usual things around the storage, preparation instructions, the ingredients list in descending order, the product name also, that also does need to be in Arabic, must be there on the packaging. Something that is slightly different, usually from particularly UK and European brands, is the dual marking of the dates of production and expiry. So best before is not really recognised in Saudi Arabia and in the wider GCC, Gulf markets. It tends to be very clear that you have to state the date of manufacture and the date of expiry. This also usually needs to be inkjetted so that it cannot be easily removed or fade away in time through the shelf life of a product. Another area that tends to catch a lot of people out is with regards to the nutritional facts and the nutritional tables that need to also be present on the products in Arabic as well as any other languages. The main thing here and in recent legislation has been that the addition of sodium as opposed to salt, cholesterol and trans fat need to be clearly mentioned on there as separate lines within the nutritional facts. And again, that's something that usually in other markets and other countries around the world is not a mandatory requirement, but in Saudi Arabia it is. I should state and caveat as well that as I'm giving you this information, this is what is correct at the time of filming. However, the SFDA, the registrations do change very frequently. So do make sure before you do start any registration that you do get up to date with regards to the requirements, because they may have changed since we filmed this recording. A few other areas to consider as well. Allergens, as usual, need to be declared and be very clear within the ingredients or as a separate statement. That also falls under the GSO, the Gulf Standard Framework as well, which is adhered to in Saudi Arabia. What a lot of people also tend to do is they will, rather than print the Arabic text on the packaging of a product, for example, they will tend to add a sticker and affix that sticker, and that needs to be in place before it is then put on the retail shelves for consumption in Saudi Arabia. However, it is a bit of a grey area as to which point those labels need to be affixed with the Arabic text. Prior to export, post entry into Saudi Arabia, it all depends, and usually it will depend and can be mandated by the retailer you might be working with or by the distributing partner, and also what's capable for you to provide as a brand or manufacturer. We would always advise that wherever possible to do it at the time of production, on the production line or on packing stage is better and best practice. But to be clear, there are other ways in which this can be made possible and still able to get your products into Saudi Arabia. Few other areas to mention, obviously claims, any claims that you're making about the product being gluten-free, being organic, these need to be evidence-based and not misleading, and you may be asked to provide backing documentation around certificates, for example, to back up that evidence and claim that you're making on the pack can be substantiated. A final note to say with regards to halal, because that is obviously an area that people do get concerned around the need for halal certification. For example, it's not always necessary on certain product categories, particularly if they are completely plant-based, contain no products of animal origin, and nothing that could contain any traces of alcohol, for example. Certain categories, obviously, like meat products, protein products, generally do obviously require halal certification. You need to make sure that that is recognised in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So the SFDA, the regulatory authority, do have a list of, for example, when it comes to the meat factories that they have approved to allow products to be imported from. And when it comes to halal certification itself, you need to make sure that you're using the right certification body that is recognised by the SFDA. So check that relative to your category, and obviously that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia do also recognise that body and that accreditation and certification that you will subsequently have in place. So I hope that's been helpful. A few tips around where a lot of people we find getting caught out or having a lot of questions around registration and compliance. What I would say is with the SFDA, things are changing all the time, so do keep abreast of those changes because it may affect your registration. It is necessary in order to enter your products into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but again, it's not as complex and as daunting as it needs to be. You can also obviously reach out to us at Bols Global. This is part of what we do to help our clients on their export journey to navigate the compliance and the ability to get your products registered in Saudi Arabia and in the wider GCC. I hope you found that useful, and thanks for listening.